A dramatic twist in the search for this missing Vermont girl. Brooke Bennett's stepfather and uncle have both been nabbed in what's being called a possible child ring.
The murder of 12-year-old Brooke Bennett was considered to be one of the most heinous crimes to ever be committed in the state of Vermont. Brooke was kidnapped by her own uncle, Michael Jacques, and his accomplice, who was also a minor, all under the disguise of a fictional predator ring. This is a case rarely discussed, but should be discussed because it helps us look into a mind of a predator that used the internet as a way to lie and manipulate his victims. So step inside the murder she shed to discuss this disturbing case. Hello, my name is Holly, and if you get tired of hearing the same true crime cases repeatedly, then you should join me in the Murder She Shed Weekly for a true crime case in which a victim's story will be told that you may have never heard before. But in order to find me, you need to hit that subscribe button because this is a big YouTube world. A girl can get lost in here. So make sure to hit that subscribe before you leave. Also, as I added a little help in the algorithms, please comment and like. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Before we begin, this case does involve essay of minors, so viewer discretion is advised. Brooke Bennett was born July 12, 1995 to parents James Bennett and Cassandra Adams. Brooke lived in Randolph, Vermont and was a 7th grader at Braintree School. Brooke was an extrovert with beautiful blue eyes and a ready and radiant smile. She was known to greet teachers in the hallways and protect younger students from bullying. Just like most little girls in the 90s, she loved to watch SpongeBob SquarePants and also Hannah Montana on TV. Brooke was also an animal lover that absolutely loved and adored her pets, Lily the cat and Scruffy, her dog. She also liked to eat bagels, popcorn, and spaghetti, and was known to put ketchup on absolutely everything. She belonged to the Girl Scouts of America Troop 510, and she had many, many friends. Like most junior high students during that time, Brooke had a MySpace account. When Brooke was born, computers and the internet were just starting to gain real traction, and no one even knew the true dangers that could lurk on the internet yet. By the time Brooke was 12, predators were already lurking on the internet, learning how to manipulate their victims, and her uncle Michael Jacques was actually one of those predators. Michael Jacques already had a long history of violence against minors when he met and married Brooke's mom's sister, or Brooke's aunt. It is unclear if Brooke's aunt knew of his disturbing history, although Brooke's father believed that she did. Michael Jacques first came into contact with the Vermont legal system in 1985 when he was charged with lewd and lavish conduct with a minor. Jacques engaged in more than 100 acts with his underage female relatives starting when she was only 8 until she became pregnant at 15 and had an abortion. This case was dropped when the victim actually refused to testify. In 1996, when Jacques was 20, he was charged with SA on another minor. The victim was the 13-year-old girlfriend of Jacques' 13-year-old brother. Jacques had an apartment in Bar where he was known to provide alcohol and drugs to minors. During one of these parties, police said he SA'd this minor. Ultimately, not taking this case seriously enough or looking at his previous history, the court gave Jacques a deferred sentence for lewd and lavish conduct and ordered him to serve 5 years on probation. In 1992, Jacques abducted an 18-year-old woman, a co-worker, after she left a bar. He handcuffed her, tied a rope around her neck, and forced her to engage in a series of acts throughout the night, at times holding a to her throat and threatening to kill her. Jacques let the woman go, stating that he needed to go see a psychiatrist. The police arrested Jacques and he was charged with kidnapping, aggravated SA, and simple assault. Jacques received a prison term of 6 to 20 years, but all suspended but for 6 years. According to records, Jacques was a model prisoner and voluntarily completed a sex offender program while in prison. However, he was released several months before he even finished this program, and therefore he never really completed it. Because of this, he served just over 4 years, 440 days of which were served in pre-trial detention. He was released from prison in August 1996, and already by August 1997, a year after Jacques was released from prison, the Department of Corrections filed a violation of probation in that Jacques was living in a household with a 3-year-old child. According to his probations, Jacques could not be alone with children under the age of 16. That only makes sense. Jacques was sentenced to only 4 days of a work crew and was given permission to go on living in the same household with this 3-year-old. Jacques had a full-time job as an operation manager for a company in New Hampshire, owned his own home and rental property next door, had strong family ties, and a family that depended on his income, so he did pretty well financially. Sometime around 2003, Jacques started using the computer to make access to children easier for him. He made up a fictional sex ring called the Breckenridge Program. He was able to pretend to be other men from his computer, and he claimed that he was part of this sex ring. He manipulated a 9-year-old female relative by making her believe this ring was real. In court documents, this young girl is called J1, but today we're going to call her Jessica for this story. Jacques' scheme involved making Jessica believe that her family, or she, would be killed if the ring's directions were not followed. Jacques sent email messages from 2 accounts, seemingly owned by members of this Breckenridge group. These 2 members' names were Charles and Eric. The emails told Jessica that Jacques was to act as her trainer and advise her to engage in various acts with Jack. When Jessica protested, she received email threats that included the killing of family pets. In fact, at some point, at least 2 of her family pets were actually killed when she didn't obey. Jacques would video record his and Jessica's encounters and give them to Brooke's then stepfather to watch. Yeah, Brooke's stepfather. The stepfather, Raymond Gagnon, had also had a 3-way with Jessica and Jacques. So she was surrounded, Brooks was surrounded by predators. By bringing other men into these assaults, Jacques could make Jessica further believe a ring did actually exist. Jessica was told in the email to graduate this Breckenridge program, she had to achieve a certain success rate. Jessica was also told 2 other girls were in this program and had met 3 men affiliated with this group. She said the girls were graded based on how they performed. At some point, Jacques became interested in his niece, Brooke. She rebuffed his advances. He decided to use the same scare tactics on Brooke and hung her own dog in the basement. Brooke still did not back down, even though she was a big animal lover, and you know this hurt her greatly. Jacques' tactics were not working on Brooke, and this angered him. Angered him to the point that he would connive a plan to get Brooke alone in order to get the one thing he wanted from this little girl. The plan would start in May 2008, a whole month before Brooke was kidnapped. A few months back, Jessica and Brooke had actually become good friends, so he decided that Jessica would be part of his plan to get to Brooke. Jacques also knew Brooke had a crush on a boy at her school, so he had Jessica send a text message to Brooke pretending that this boy had texted her about her and Brooke coming to this boy's overnight pool party. By this time, they were good friends, and Brooke had no reason to doubt what Jessica said. On the text, Brooke texts Jessica back, "Oh my God, he really sent that to you? That's awesome." "Yeah, he likes me," Brooke wrote in her diary, drawing a heart with their 2 names together. She was a young teen with dreams about discovering love and boys and maybe one day having a family that Jacques will take away from her, as you will find out. The now 14-year-old Jessica believed her family would actually be killed if she didn't go through with Jacques' horrible plan. She had received emails from the Breckenridge program that she must follow their instructions to graduate the actual program. The group of men discussed with Jessica what was called disgusting, a farming session, in which multiple men would essay Brooke because they wanted her to become part of this program. Jessica suggested an email how to set up the abduction and said that she wanted to see Brooke suffer, to see how she likes it. On June 20th, an email from one of the pretend members worries about Jessica's willingness to actually carry out the plan. "I want to know if you are willing to help Dad with the takedown in the tub on Wednesday morning. Dad is actually referring to Jacques. The email also suggests that a taser could be used. I suppose we could just have him tase her and knock her down, then do it himself. That is a little more traumatic than I wanted her to experience that early in the morning, read the email. She will have enough of that later. Jessica writes back to assure this group member that she will help out Dad with the tie-down. From the beginning, Jacques had planned on ending Brooke's life at the end of this plan. So he just enjoyed the month-long emails in advance of Brooke's kidnapping. It just seemed to excite him to discuss this big plan he had. On June 16, Jacques actually purchased more than $1,000 worth of items from a website that were shipped to his home in Vermont in order to prepare for that day. On June 23rd, 2 days before Brooke's disappearance, and actually 5 days for her 13th birthday, one of the pretend group members instructed Jessica in an email to have her boyfriend actually kiss her stomach and wipe up the semen with a clean, plain handkerchief. Then he instructed Jessica just to put that handkerchief into a plastic sandwich bag, seal it up, and hide it until the date of the kidnapping in order to set her own boyfriend up for the crime. On the morning of the party, June 25th, 2008, Jacques and Jessica picked Brooke up and drove to a convenience store about 10 minutes from Jacques' home. Once there, Jacques dropped Brooke off in front of the store's surveillance camera, but told her to walk to a nearby spot where they would pick her up. On the camera, you could see where they supposedly went opposite directions. He told Brooks so her parents wouldn't blame him on taking her to this boy's party, when in reality, it was just to throw off the police from his actual plan. Jacques and Jessica then allegedly left, but circled back to pick Brooke up. Jacques then took both Brooke and Jessica to his house, where he ended up actually drugging Brooke, secretly drugging them while they were sitting on the couch watching TV. Then after he did that, he told Jessica it was time for her to leave the house so he could do whatever he wanted to this little girl. He then took Brooke into his bedroom, where he did unspeakable acts to this little girl before deciding to put a Walmart bag over her head to suffocate her. Can you imagine how many minutes of torture it would take before that little girl would die from lack of oxygen? Jacques had plenty of time to reconsider his choice before Brooke took her last breath, and yet he was so evil that he never veered from his sadistic plan. At first, police saw the surveillance tape from the store and actually believed that Brooke had not been with Jacques. And they also found her underwear and a shoe with Jessica's boyfriend's DNA on it not far from the convenience store at a pond. And they almost fell for his scent. One of the first Amber Alerts from the state of Vermont was put out in order to find Brooke. Multiple agencies poured resources into the search to no avail. Jacques was able to send a message to Brooke's stepfather, Raymond Gagnon, remember him, the three-way guy? And he asked him to help impede the investigation. Brooke's stepfather was able to get into Brooke's MySpace account and manipulate it and to show that she was meeting up with that boy. Somehow he pretended to be her and wrote something in there to say that she was meeting him to throw the investigation, what they thought would throw the investigation off, but it didn't work. Because what Jacques didn't prepare for is that Jessica began to talk. And she didn't quit talking until the whole story was unveiled. They were able to arrest Jacques on actual charges against Jessica. And then the police got a search warrant and were able to get a hold of Jacques' computer, where they then were able to discover his fake ring. Search at Jacques' home and property also resulted in the discovery of video showing Jessica participating in acts, a sneaker belonging to Brooke, and a 4-page note from Jacques to Jessica actually instructing her how to deflect questions from police, which obviously didn't work. Investigators also found a book in the closet of Jacques' bedroom entitled Like Father, Like Son. The story is a true crime account of a Nevada murder of a 9-year-old little girl by Thomas Sora Sr., who had molested his son and then was able to coerce his son into recruiting teenage girls in order for him to essay. I also did a video on this case about Thomas Sora Sr. So if you would like to go watch that, I will leave the link in the comments and you can go watch that video. It's a rather rough one to get through. And apparently, Jacques saw this man as his role model because that way he could learn how to manipulate these little kids. Disturbing, both of them were. On July 2nd, police announced they had found Brooke's little body in a shallow grave with the Walmart bag still over her head. She was found in the woods about a mile from Jacques' home in Randolph. Even though Jacques was in jail, he wasn't done with his conniving ways and manipulating people for his own benefit. On July 4th and 8th, while in custody, Jacques sent letters to his friend Michael Garcia, who was actually an attorney. These letters asserted Jacques' innocence and asked Garcia for help. On July 10th, Jacques called Garcia and asked him to come from Arizona to Vermont, stating that he could not talk to Garcia on the monitored prison phone. He also suggested that Garcia pose as his attorney in a civil matter and call on the attorney line, which was not monitored. Garcia wasn't falling for this, though. The next day, Garcia contacted authorities to let them know that Jacques was up to something. The government obtained a recording of the phone conversation between Garcia and Jacques where they discussed all this, and they decided it'd be a good idea to investigate. Since Garcia wasn't actually his attorney, it would then be legal to record a telephone call between the two. On July 16, FBI agents met with Garcia and helped him place a recorded telephone call to Jacques on the attorney line. Prior to the call, the agents instructed Garcia not to ask Jacques anything about the crimes charged. During the call, Jacques told Garcia that he was being framed by some bad guys who were involved with Jessica. Jacques said that he needed Garcia to send messages to Jessica telling her that the bad guys were still out there, threatening Jessica. To accomplish this, Jacques gave Garcia Jessica's cell phone number and suggested what he should actually say to her in the messages. After this conversation, Jacques again sent Garcia letters begging for his help and expressing dismay that Garcia had not contacted him again. Garcia called Jacques on July 22nd, a call again recorded by the FBI. Jacques stated that the plan to contact Jessica needed to be carried out soon because the indictment had not yet been issued. He also instructed Garcia to take precautions, such as using a secondary hard drive or sending email messages from internet cafes to prevent the messages from being tracked back to Garcia and him. Garcia made yet another recorded call to Jacques on July 24th, during which Jacques again asked Garcia to contact Jessica and told Garcia that he had mailed a package to him that would explain what steps he should take. The package of the instructions told Garcia to send Jessica messages in the names of Eric and Charles from Breckenridge. The messages would instruct her to inform the authorities and the media that Jacques had been framed, and to tell Jacques' wife he had been framed. Garcia was instructed, if necessary, to email Jessica as Eric, telling her to send editorials to major newspapers stating that Jacques was completely innocent. Jacques also gave instructions on the timing of these steps and recommended that Garcia send these emails from public computers in other states. Throughout these telephone calls and meetings with Garcia, Jacques frequently asserted that he was innocent, that he was set up by the Breckenridge group, who planted evidence in the form of Google searches, emails, and orders of items such as handcuffs, and that he had simply dropped Brooke off at the convenience store. He was completely innocent. Jacques thought he had covered all his bases until the trial and realized he wasn't as smart as he thought he had been. Michael Jacques was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole or appeal. The sentence was the result of an August 2013 plea agreement in which Jacques agreed to plead guilty to all 6 federal charges filed against him, in exchange for prosecutors dropping their plan to seek the death penalty should he be convicted of the crime. Jacques looked and acted like a little weasel, but I guess he wasn't weaselly enough to get away with his sadistic plans in the long run. Well, at least there was some form of justice. and the poor boyfriend didn't get in trouble for her murder. How horrible would that have been? Because we're smart enough to figure all this out. I swear he looks like the weaseliest guy I've ever seen. And he definitely acted like a weasel. I'm so glad at the end, Brooke's family was able to find some kind of justice. And little Brooke, you now have your angel wings. May you rest in peace with your heavenly Father. All right, guys, the moral of this is you should definitely teach your children about the internet and all the things that lurk out there and all the predators that are out there to manipulate them. I mean, I don't think you can teach them enough. These predators are so good anymore, they can convince them of anything. That's the scary thing. And it's just really sad that we can't even allow our children to explore the internet for monsters like this that will come on. Because the internet can teach them lots of good things too. They can learn so much on the internet, yet they come across such evil that is scary too. The internet can be a scary place. Anyway, guys, we need to learn to teach children about how bad of a place the internet can actually be. I think that's very important. Anyway, please hit the subscribe before you click off. I'd love to see you again at my Murder She Said. I'll let y'all say bye to Simon. I don't know where he's hiding. I think he's hot and didn't want to come in here, but I think he's in the front yard on his new porch. He's very excited about that. Where you at, Simon? He's in the house. My husband's home. Okay, I won't let you tell him bye because he's already in the house. My husband came home. I did not know it, so I'll just tell you by myself. Sorry you didn't get to see Simo this time. If y'all don't know, it's my German Shepherd. If you watch other videos, you'll see who I'm talking about because he's in most videos, but he wasn't in this one. Sorry for the disappointment. He always cheers us up at the end, I know. All right, love y'all. Bye.